students, in my previous video I had told you people about the great Victorian novelists and their creations. Today's video is about the Victorian poets and their poetic creations. Students, as you all know now, that Victorian period in literature stands for the period when Queen Victoria was at the throne of England. That means the time period from 1837 to 1901 may be referred to as the period of Queen Victoria, and if we talk about poetry, it is known as the time period for Victorian poetry. During this time period, the poets, they followed the Romanticism. Some of the themes of Romanticism were even followed in this time period, like there was religious skepticism and valorization of the artist as genius. But apart from that, Victorian poets also developed a distinct sensibility. If we talk about the poetic temper of this age, it is not materially different from that of the early 19th century. That means, as I told you in the very beginning, that most of the themes, you can say, in the beginning of Victorian era, they were being taken from the post-Romantic era. In its individualism, play of imagination, love of the picturesque, and interest in nature and the past, these were some of the themes which are commonly found in Romantic era. They were passed on even to the Victorian era, to the, you can say, first half of the Victorian era. But in its response to the changed conditions, political, economic, scientific and religions, it no doubt acquired a distinctive character of its own. The Victorian poets lived in the world of their day, which looked up to them for guidance. Democracy introduced a new phase. Science banished God from the universe. So now you can see that the Victorian poets, they, you can say, made use of their intellect in probing deeper into the societal matters. Religion, therefore, had little useful role to play. So, each of the poets, whether it was Tennyson, Browning or Arnold, they all came out with a message of their own to reassure their readers that their doubts, distractions and fears were all right with the world. It means Victorian poetry is also inclined towards the realism. The poets turned prophets too. Victorian poetry came to be related more to life than the Romantic. It is the voice of the Victorian England. Now I'm going to discuss with you people the chief poets or the most famous poets of Victorian era, and I'll be giving you a brief glimpse of their works also. First of all, the poet which we are going to discuss is Alfred Lord Tennyson. Perhaps he is the most distinguished poet apart from Browning of this era. Tennyson was one of the most skilled and self-conscious poets of the Victorian age. He was a typical Victorian who adopted the conventional religious and social views and values of his age. Although his early poetry was not a great you can say success among people, but gradually he sharpened his skill. Tennyson's later poems are serious, thoughtful and musical. His poem, The Ideals of the King, is preferred by many people even today. His next, a great contribution, Morte d'Arthur, he turned Malory's story into poetry. In his long poem which is perhaps his most successful work, he laments for the death of his friend Arthur Tennyson's shorter poems are generally better than the longer ones. If we talk about Ulysses, it is his most controlled and perfectly written poem which presents the heroic voice of the aged hero. The Princess is the collection of his fine lyric which shows his best mysterious and musical quality. So that's all about Tennyson. Now we proceed further towards the next important literary poetic figure of that era, and he is none other than Robert Browning. Browning was also a major Victorian poet who voiced the mood of optimism in his works. For Browning, the intellect was more important than the music. His great knowledge was the result of his self-study and travels. His reputation is higher as the writer of dramatic monologue. Now this is something you can say very much related with Browning. If you talk about Browning, it cannot be complete without quoting his great dramatic monologues. Whether it is My Last Touches, A Grammarian's Funeral, Bishop Orders His Tomb, Porphyria's Lover, these are some of his famous dramatic monologues. Apart from that, his successful dramatic poem is Pippa Passes. We find many such poems in his dramas, but his natural gift was in poetry. Sometimes we notice his poetic style is quite difficult. It is because of his unusual knowledge of words and his strange sentence structure. Sordello is a good example of his difficult poem. His next great work is The Ring and the Book. Asolando is a collection of many fine poems which was published on the day of Browning's death. So perhaps he is one of those literary figures of Victorian era whom none can ever ignore. The next poet whom we are going to discuss is Matthew Arnold. Arnold was a great poet and critic of his time. He had been a professor of poetry in Oxford for 10 years. So his works truly represent his age. He wrote a poem entitled Rugby Chapel. Tiresias is a poem of lament for his friend Clough. In his poem The Scholar Gypsy, the poet talks about an Oxford man who joins a band of gypsies and wanders with them. Memorial Verses is his sad poem. And if I name a few others, Empedocles on Etna has also been highly praised, and it is also one of his great works. Next, we are going to take up Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Rossetti was a poet as well as a noted painter. His sonnets are among the most musical in English. Many critics have accused him of writing immoral poems belonging to the fleshy school of poetry, but he argued that poetry ought to be based on the senses. His greatest contribution is The Blessed Damozel. Next, the poet, we can say the poetess is under consideration. The next one is the number of a poetess, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Before I start any discussion about her, she was the beloved of Robert Browning, so as well as she married him. So she was also one of the great literary figures of Victorian era. Some of her poems are too long, but in a sonnet she could not write too much because the form is limited to 14 lines. That's what she herself has revealed in one of her works. So, best known work by her is contained in Sonnets from the Portuguese. Next poet that we are going to take up is Algernon Charles Swinburne. Swinburne followed the poetic style of Rossetti, but he could not use alliteration so much successfully in his poems as did Rossetti. His great work, Poems and Ballads, appeared in 1866. A later book of poems and ballads is not so much offensive as the previous one because people blamed it for moral reasons. Tristram of Lyonesse is usually considered to be his best work. It tells the undying story of Tristram and Isolde. Next poet is Edward Fitzgerald. He is perhaps the greatest poetic translator. He translated 6 of Calderon's plays, the Agamemnon of Aeschylus and the Rubaiyat of the Persian poet Umar Khayyam. Most translations lose something and are not as good as the originals, but this book is considered by some Persian scholars to be better than Umar Khayyam's work. In his translation of Rubaiyat, he entirely omitted the hidden meanings of the original. The other poets of this particular age who are noteworthy are Arthur Clough and Christina Rossetti. Apart from all these poets, there was also a parallel school of poetry which is known as fleshly school of poetry or the pre-Raphaelites. The fleshly school poets or the pre-Raphaelites were inspired by the Italian painters before Raphael. In 1848, a group of 3 young painters who were also poets founded the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. They followed a medieval outlook, art for art's sake, sensuous and clear word painting, and a poetry rich in music and melody. D.G. Rossetti was the chief among these young poets. Next one is A.C. Swinburne. He was also regarded as the follower of D.G. Rossetti. And the third one was William Morris. William Morris's works, The Defense of Guinevere and other poems, The Life and Death of Jason and The Earthly Paradise, are purely romantic in method and style. Thus, we can say that Victorian poetry also holds one of the supreme positions in the firmament of literary compositions, and Victorian poets have carved their own niche, which is till now none has been able to touch that high pedestal of poetry. So that's all for today. Students, I am again and again telling you people that please watch this video very carefully because we'll be having an online test on Saturday and the questions will be based on the videos that I have posted for you people as well as the notes which I'll be sharing with you people tomorrow and day after tomorrow. That's all for today.